Hello, and welcome to the Point Church podcast. We're really glad you're here. Before we jump in, if you'd like to stay connected, you can download the Point Church app. It's a simple way to find messages, resource, and what's happening. And if this podcast is helpful, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Point Church podcast. I'm here with Pastor Sam as we are in season 2 of our podcast, where we are diving into the book of Revelations. We did the first week last week, and again, our apologies. As we announced on Sunday, Pastor Sam and I are not technically advanced all that much, so when we decided to upgrade some stuff, we accidentally deleted the entire podcast off all platforms besides YouTube. So if you have found us, and I hope you have, this is the new one, and we are going to be for sure to not delete this one.
Yes, we are locked in here, and we've got like holy water out and everything, and so it should be all taken care of now.
It should be. So again, we encourage you to listen to the sermon, before listening to this specific podcast.
Yes.
Because it goes hand in hand together. This podcast is going to be a lot of what Pastor Sam couldn't cover in the sermon on Sunday, even with the longer sermon.
Yeah, as you can imagine, covering 2 chapters of the book of Revelation took a little bit of extra time. And so we took our time on Sunday, and because we want to get it right rather than quick. And so, it was a little bit longer. And
but it was awesome.
Yeah, but it was one of those, you're like, okay, if we really want to understand, I mean, if there's anything to take your time on, it's understanding the end of the world.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? A little bit of extra time, not the worst thing in the world. So,
definitely.
But this is also information that, as we've been saying from the pulpit, that Sunday morning is for really understanding the broad strokes, the general themes of what's going on in each section of the book. And then this is for deep dive questions, kind of parsing it out. And we can go longer because, again, you can't pause a sermon when it's live, but if you're listening to this podcast, you can pause it, rewind, come back to it, things like that. So
100%. And speaking of those chapters and how you went through those chapters, 2 questions right off the bat. Why are these chapters so important in understanding Revelations? And then also, as we get into these chapters, they are letters.
Yes.
Right? So why are these letters only for those churches, or are they also for us too? Because I think that can be, people kind of question when they're reading this.
Yeah. So when you think of the book of Revelation, you think apocalypse, end of the world, destruction, fire, all those kind of things. Dragons. Jesus coming back. Right, exactly. And it's similar to when you read the Gospels and you start in Matthew and you see a list of names and you're like, boring, let's skip that and get to the good stuff. You really can't, as we talked about in season 1, you really can't, because that gives you, the lineage. This shows what the picture of the world is that Jesus is showing up to. For this, it's the same thing. So chapter 1, as we talked about last week, was this is who Jesus is, fully revealed, power, might, majesty, and John's who could even stand in front of him? And then chapters 2 and 3 are talking about these 7 churches. So I'll answer the first part, which is why these 7, and then what we do with it. So these 7, I think we have a map that we can pull up, that if you're watching on YouTube or, video, that you can see this map pulled up. But I found this to be very, very helpful. So if you notice, these are not the only cities in what is, modern day Turkey, Asia Minor, when it was being written. But, and so they're not the only churches in the area either. They're not the only churches in the empire. So what's happening here is these are churches that are directly due east of Patmos, where John's writing. And it starts, if you notice, the order matters. It starts in Ephesus, which is right by the coast, then Smyrna, which is next up, Pergamum, which is Pergamos, which is north. Then you go and you kind of see, oh, wait a minute, it's a cycle.
Yeah.
It's kind of like creating a circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So this letter would have been circulated around to the churches. So again, so it's strategic.
Yes.
Like where he's going. And what you also see is not only this is a way to distribute this information and this scripture, but it's a way to also say, hey, 7, that number of completeness, that it begins with these 7 churches, but it's really for the whole church, that it's not going to stop in Laodicea. It's not like they're not going to spread this out further, because obviously we have it today. So again, it's being spread. It's for all churches. It started with these 7, but it's for all churches to take this wisdom and apply it. And in some ways, where are we as a local church? Something that I challenge the church to examine is like, where do we think we are? Are we a church of Philadelphia? Are we a church of Laodicea?
Yeah.
Because you see that there are some overlaps, but there's a fair amount of difference as well, where they're like, oh, this church, you're small, but you're strong. So, okay, like there's churches like that now that are, small, strong churches that Jesus is like, you're doing everything you're supposed to. And then other churches that are big and wealthy, and Jesus is like, you're lukewarm. You know what I mean? And there's churches everywhere in between. So in many ways, it's like, if you find yourself as a church of Laodicea, you should change what you're doing. If you find yourself as a church of Philadelphia, you should be encouraged because you're doing the right things. The filter, again, as we said during the sermon, and I believe we said in the first episode, was it's all about faithfulness to Jesus.
Yes.
What does that look like? What's that level? It's not about size. It's not about budget. It's not about, social media followers, all the things that we tend to get obsessed with in the church world and focus on. Those aren't the metrics Jesus is really measuring. What he's measuring for is faithfulness and fruit.
Yeah.
And that can come at any size, any budget, but it all has to flow out of faithfulness.
Yeah.
So you'll see it starts with those 7 and it gets circulated out. So that's why those 7, but again, it's meant to go out into the whole world. The other thing I want to point out, though, with these 7 is why it's so important is when Jesus starts talking about judgment, he starts with the church. He doesn't start with the world. He starts with the church.
Yeah.
You all know better, essentially. You all know. You have the word. You have the Spirit of God. You all should know this. He also doesn't compare the sins of one church to another.
No.
He's like, this is yours to deal with. So when he talks about sexual immorality, he's like, you deal with your sexual immorality and you deal with yours separate. Again, something else that the church does a really bad job is we tend to point out the plank or the speck in someone else's eye, but we ignore the plank in our own.
Yeah.
But again, Jesus is saying, like, you deal with your sexual sin over here. You deal with your idolatry over here. You deal with your lukewarmness. Don't worry about Smyrna. Don't worry about Laodicea. Like, if you're not them, you don't worry about them. You worry about you. So, again, very on theme with the teachings of Jesus that we did in season 1.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of times churches, when they read through this, at least some that I have seen, they'll read through these churches and be like, this church down the street is this. This church down the street is that.
Yep.
It's never them.
No,
and that's
it's
exactly,
never no. They're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, no, and so, and then they'll come back and be like, "But our church is doing this, and this is why we're so good," and blah blah blah. But I think it's like
pride
at
that point.
Yeah, like it's pride in that,
right?
And so yeah, I thought it was a really great.
Right, you can be prideful as a big church. Look how big we are, and we can be prideful as a small church. We're true. Only a few people can hang with us.
Yeah,
I've seen it both ways, and you're like, is that really the metric? Is like how great you are compared to someone else? Like, that's not to be found anywhere in Scripture.
Because I think a lot of people will look at it and be like, the mega churches are this one.
They're fun to pick on.
But yeah, it's fun to pick on. But you're like, I've been in some small churches that have that same mindset.
Exact same mindset.
Thinking.
Yeah, because what they say is like, oh, it's all about that pastor, and that pastor's the only reason people go. And you're like, I've been in mega churches of 20 people, and it's all about the pastor.
Yeah.
If that's the metric that you're picking on a mega church for, again, watch yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it's about faithfulness. Again, you and I have been in churches where 10,000, 20,000 person church.
Yep.
Incredibly faithful. incredibly faithful to the word, and they've been blessed, and they can do things that other churches can't. We've also been in churches of 10 or 20 people, incredibly faithful. It's not about pride; it's about faithfulness.
Yes, that is it.
And you have it on no matter the size.
Yeah, and no matter what is going on inside of your church, because I think as you read these two chapters, and so everyone knows we're in Revelations 2, chapter 2 and chapter 3.
Yeah.
As you read, a lot of times you'll see that Jesus compliments their works. And
yes, we said that on Sunday, that it starts with an introduction of who Jesus is, the one who holds the 7 spirits, the one who's the firstborn from among the dead. These different things that show not only who he is, but why he has authority to say what he's saying. And then he starts with, well, just about every church, a strength they have, then a fault they have, or weakness, and then the promise. If you repent, if you turn away, or if you keep doing what you're doing, this is what you'll receive. And those 7 are all different, but kind of saying the same thing over and over.
Very much so. So we talked about how it is on us. Is there a significance to the order of these churches?
Just the fact that
we talked about like the circle and all of that and the mailing.
Yeah, I think that would be the main argument for it, is just saying like, hey, like it starts with these 7, but it doesn't, because only one of these has a letter from Paul, Ephesus, and only one of these is a city that we even really recognize today, Philadelphia, like in America at least. So it's not like, again, the metric was wealth or size. Because they're all different.
And I think it shows it beautifully as you read it, that you're like, oh, this one's good, but this one's in the middle.
You are small, but you are strong. You are lukewarm.
And it's not first. So I kind of like that. But I know one thing that you did want to get into, which you were not necessarily able to, was the backstory of Balaam, right?
Yeah. So Balaam is talked about in the letter to Pergamum. It's mentioned, there are some among you who hold the teachings of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin, so that they ate food sacrificed to idols and committed sexual immorality likewise. So it's like you're following in that same spirit. So what does that mean? Like when we read that, we're like, what? Like, these aren't names that we recognize easily. So again, Revelation constantly references the Old Testament, constantly. So this is a reference to a story in Numbers 22 when Israel is traveling along in the wilderness, and they're, this powerful nation that's just wandering around, and people are nervous about it. And Balak, who is the king of, I believe, Moab, he hires Balaam to curse Israel, but God prevents him from cursing him. Like every time he opens his mouth, he can't curse them. So Balaam encourages compromise instead. He's like, maybe entice them, be nice to them, make, you know what I mean? Like cause them to befriend you, when God said, hey, don't do what they do. They're like, hey, the only way, you can't beat them, you can't fight them, and you can't curse them because God won't let me. Let's get them to compromise. Well, how was the way they got them to compromise? They're like, take some of our women. Aren't they beautiful? Wed them, raise family with them, be unevenly yoked in many ways. It gets talked about later. So so Jesus is using, it's a reminder that Israel is often misled by idolatry and immorality. This is why God over and over in the Old Testament just gets so heartbroken, because it seems like Israel does good for a season. They have a good king. They have faithfulness to Yahweh. And then they get comfortable. And they forget who is the one that saves them from their sin, the one who prevents all this destruction, and is the one who's really holding their nation together, who's in charge. And they're, we can dabble and compromise, and it's okay. We can have Yahweh and Baal. We can have a different idol, but they always lead you away into immorality. So Jesus is saying, hey, don't be like that.
Don't do that.
Don't bow down to something other than me. And again, we can insert
Yeah, like what does it look like today?
Today it's obvious. Like it's politics, it's money, it's power, it's sex, it's the idea of success. Like there are so many things that you're like, bow down and worship this. I mean, insert whatever your own God is other than Jesus. What as Tim Keller once said, him or his wife said, an idol is whatever you think that if you lost it, you would lose everything. Even a good thing. If you lost it, you feel like you lost everything.
Yeah.
So like, if you lost your job, who am I? Lost your money, who am I now?
Yeah.
But I'm a churchgoer. Yeah, but you lost your money and you felt like you fell apart. You see what I mean? Like it's not necessarily inherently evil vices. It's anything that's on the throne of your heart other than God. So I mean, they had their own in the first century.
Yeah.
Just turn on social media or the news and you can figure out really quick what our countries are.
Yeah. And what our personal one is.
Yeah.
Like when you watch the news, if you get, like mad or angry about a certain thing or this or that.
Or think someone is beyond reconciliation or forgiveness of God. They are pure evil incarnate.
Yeah. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really good. There's
a because again, like the devil, he's sneaky, as we talked about in season 1.
Yeah.
He started when he tempted Jesus was with bread, a good thing.
Yep.
Then it was to be impressive, throw yourself off, everyone talk about you. Then he came out and said, I'll give you all the powers of the world. But it's all compromise.
Yeah.
Nowhere does he say until the very end, bow down and worship only me.
Yeah.
At first it's, if you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. Nowhere does it say worship me and I'll give you bread.
No.
It's very small. It's very, very small. It's the slow. It's the boiling of the frog. You know what I mean? Just little by little. Again, it's like anything other than Jesus on the throne of your heart, or even sharing the throne of your heart with Jesus, will eventually erode that. And you have to eliminate it.
Yeah. And I know some of the big questions probably on people's mind this week, and you kind of set it up there, was about this Jezebel spirit.
Yeah.
I know it's a word that is thrown out there, especially today in a lot of places.
Yep. And typically about women.
Yeah.
Tends to be pretty sexist.
Yep. About women. And I know up there you announced that, like, well, we're going to talk more about this.
Yeah.
Because I think it is something that, which I'll just let you describe it. But it is thrown out there many places.
Yeah, it comes
today.
up more and more through the book of Revelation too. So
yes,
Jezebel is talked about in the 7 letters, and it's not a person sitting in the congregation. I did want to make that clear, because you read that and you're like, oh, Jesus says that woman Jezebel. It's not like he's calling out one specific lady in the congregation. You're like,
people are like, oh, I know that one.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's calling out what's known as the spirit, the Jezebel spirit.
Yeah.
But Jezebel was a real person. Now, it's a much longer podcast to go into demonic, non-demonic, versus just someone who is following the flesh and causing others to do that as well. That's a much longer conversation. But Jezebel is a real person. She was the daughter of a neighboring kingdom in ancient Israel who married the king of Israel, Ahab. And Ahab was a wicked king, and he was heavily influenced by his wife to not only reject God, but to worship her god, Baal, instead. And Baal is a horrible god, demands horrible things of his worshipers. And there's a famous showdown between it is the top prophet of Elijah versus Baal, where it's the famous scene where Elijah, the one prophet of God, versus several hundred prophets of Baal, and they are the prophets of Baal are like trying to get this wood pile to catch on fire, showing that Baal is, their god, and they're screaming and cutting themselves and dancing around for hours and hours and hours, and nothing happens.
Insanity.
It's insanity. And Elijah stands up next to his woodpile and says, hey, douse water on it, like a ton of water, and then fire falls down from heaven and consumes it. Like it says, like licks up all of the water.
Yes.
But there's a crowd on Mount Carmel watching this showdown.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, this is the God. This is Yahweh. This is like a reminder of who he is.
Yes.
But Jezebel is furious with Elijah. So she's like, I will kill you. And so he flees into the wilderness. But again, it's the idea of, it's a spirit. Again, I'm talking spirit, not maybe even literal spirit, but this, like when we say the spirit of a city is, you know, or the spirit of it, you know what I mean? Just kind of the idea, the culture, the feeling around it. Jezebel, well, may or may not be demonic spirit. Again, another podcast, another time.
Yep.
But it's the idea that you operate through fleshly desire, leading others astray to worship something other than God.
Yeah.
She represents, in so many ways, false teachings and compromise. She's like a catch-all phrase.
Yeah.
It's like a placeholder, like compromise, Jezebel. Faithfulness, Jesus.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. And later on in the book of Revelation, you see there is Jezebel, who looks beautiful and presents herself in this lovely way, but she's drinking the blood of the martyrs. So she's like getting drunk on it, but she represents basically the god of the world, which is all about compromise. But then you see the most beautiful woman, and it's the church.
Yes.
Being presented to Jesus as his bride.
Yes.
So again, it's the idea of like perverting beauty, perverting what's good, twisting it, and it's an intense spiritual opposition to Jesus. So he's like, are you going to be faithful to me, and in so doing become beautiful, become the bride of Christ, or will you give in to destruction, to a false god, to compromise? I mean, insert whatever, pornography, infidelity, looking at a woman with lust, as Jesus put it. But it's not just sexual. It could be power. You think the way to make change is only through politics and not through service. You think that you need to have a huge bank account in order to be important and a success. Like, it's, again, anything that runs counter to the teachings of Jesus and the heart of Jesus, it gets used throughout the book of Revelation to say, you're marked with Jezebel, you're marked with Christ.
Yeah. And I think you see a lot of those parallels today.
Oh, yeah.
And
it makes the world a lot more black and white.
Yeah.
But not in the ways that we think. We think black and white, left and right, but it's more of like Jesus or anything else.
Yeah. And I think too, you hit on it right up front, is that it's used for women a lot,
right? Because that was why I wanted to actually speak on that a little more. A lot of times it's been used by specifically male dominated churches, denominations, to say if a woman speaks up, speaks her mind, or wears maybe clothing that, not even provocative, but by that denomination or that church's standards would say like wicked, that we're like, no. It's a way to be oppressive and say, hey, get back in line, remember your place. And again, that's not the spirit of Christ at all, because again, one of the main reasons why we know the Gospels are true was the way that Jesus not only surrounded himself with men and women, but the first evangelists who told the good news about Jesus alive were women. In that culture, to say, oh, the testimony of someone being alive was from a woman would have not held any sway in court.
No.
Even to about 500 years, even probably 200 years ago in our country, as a woman, you could not be in a courtroom and speak unless either your father or your husband was present.
I mean,
and gave you permission to do so. So like, Jesus is like, no, I want them to speak. They are human beings. So, but it could be easily twisted to say, you have a Jezebel spirit because you're questioning male leadership. And you're like, no. We're fighting for dignity, and we're fighting to be treated as daughters of the king, which we are. but you can again see where it becomes a power play.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, a good thing with just going back to that, that when they wrote that the women were the first ones to evangelize and say the good news, again, just to hit on it even more, is they would have been laughed at.
Yes.
And almost like killed for saying something like that.
Yeah. I believe there was I think this is exactly how the prayer went, but there was a prayer that, I mean, this is wild, but like that people would pray even before the time of Jesus, was like, God, thank you for not making me a slave, a dog, or a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
And so when Paul writes, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, slave or free, man or woman, he's not promoting any transgender, you know what I mean? None of that. He's saying, you treat your wife, you treat your daughter, you treat your sister or the woman in your congregation same as you would treat anyone else.
Yeah.
Because they're made in the Imago Dei.
100%. And, you know, I think a lot of, you know, the Jezebel with the evil and everything, it brings us to this, where Jesus says, where Satan's throne is.
Yep. And then another point, he calls it the synagogue of Satan.
Yes. So
you hear the word synagogue and you hear the word Satan with the modern things happening right now.
Yeah.
Your imagination can be off to the races pretty quick.
And you know, a lot of times in the Bible, it's not necessarily Satan. It could be the evil one. It could be this. Yeah. So this is where it's like 2 times, like it's coming out saying Satan.
Right. And just for the nerds to remember, Satan is not a name, it's a title.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the Satan, which means the deceiver, the hostile one, as Tim Mackey likes to describe it. He said that probably is how the Hebrew, the hostile one.
The hostile.
So, not a name, a title. So the synagogue of the hostile one.
And so where it says where Satan's throne is.
Yeah. So where Satan's throne is specifically referring to an area in that city where there was a temple that was specifically dedicated to pagan worship and worship of Caesar.
Yeah.
It's interesting that when Christians, I remember reading this in my first year of seminary and just like blew my mind because it was like the battle. It was like one of the big battles between, not within the church, but outside the church and the Roman Empire, was that Rome considered Christians to be atheists because they only believed in one God.
Yeah.
So Rome had several gods.
Many.
So that was they thought they were blasphemous because they only had one God. So they had temples set up to all these different gods. And one of the gods, similar to Egypt, thinking Pharaoh was a god, was that Caesar was a god. So the specific line that we're going to talk about this upcoming Sunday is when a Caesar would come in to, a grand entrance into a city or was addressed by a military ruler, they would say, Caesar is Lord. Caesar is our Lord and God. And Christians, and then in each home in the Roman Empire, you would have like an image of the Caesar and you would light incense. And that was your act of worship to Caesar as a god. Caesar is Lord. And what got Christians killed and persecuted more than anything is they refused to say Caesar is Lord. They said Jesus is Lord. But it's not like Christians didn't get persecuted because they were violent. The Christians were not violent. And they weren't persecuted because they didn't pay taxes. Jesus is like, give to Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is God. They paid their taxes, they were nonviolent, and they helped people that the empire wouldn't help. Their threat was they didn't think Caesar was a god. Yeah. And that Jesus was the only God. So
sounds like somewhere right now.
Yeah, exactly.
North Korea.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. So what's specifically happening with the synagogue of Satan, or the temple of Satan, because there's 2 references. The first is the temple of Satan.
This is the Satan's throne, and then
Satan's throne. Thank you. Satan's throne. So that's what's happening there. This is a particular area in this city where there's heavy pagan worship happening and worship of Caesar. Okay. But again, Jesus is saying all of that is an act of worship to someone other than me, and the one pulling the strings behind the scenes is Satan. Like the hostile one is like, worship anything other than God. Yeah. And it's an act of worshiping me. Yes. So that's one reference. This is the one the synagogue of Satan is the one where, similar to Jezebel's spirit, has been used and weaponized to harm people in modern day times.
Yep.
Just as Jezebel has been used to say, hey, all women who are free thinking should be quieted.
Yeah.
No, that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's not not what the scriptures say. Same as this idea of synagogue of Satan has been used for anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
And that's not what Jesus is saying.
No.
Again, what Jesus is saying is he is not attacking all Jewish people. Period, point blank, end of story. Like, he's not. He, to the very end, was still trying to, as we talk about season 1, have the Jewish leaders turn to him. You know what I mean? Repent, turn, and come to me. And then where does Peter go? Peter goes to the Jews. Like, he goes to Jerusalem after the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. Paul goes to the Gentiles because they're going to all people. Not just the Jews, but also not excluding the Jews either. So this is referring to a specific group, this is where context matters, who was actively persecuting the church in this city. And so it was a synagogue, which is an outpost of the temple, similar to a church. So this is where the Jewish people would meet. But they had weaponized it to not worship Yahweh, but to attack Christians. They were actively turning Christians over to Rome to be killed. And again, Jesus is saying the same thing. You are acting on behalf of Satan. Like, this building was set up to worship Yahweh, and you are using it to destroy the people that I am calling to my own. It's not a mark of anti-Semitism. Very, very clear on that. Jesus still wants all people, Jews, non-Jews, to come to faith in him. Jesus came first to the Jews. He is a Jew. So why would he turn around and call them all satanic? Again, the acts of this area are the problem. So again, it's trying to say the black and white is not just religion, left and right. The black and white of the world is faithfulness to Jesus, faithfulness to anything else.
It is. And I think with those two, so you have the Jezebel and then you have the synagogue of Satan. One is used as a name, and then this is used a lot as a phrase to them.
Right.
So,
but you can easily see, especially with the tensions today. And I know we don't have like a huge following or anything like this, but who knows? Maybe at some point this will come back to bite. But you see the confusion today.
You do.
And I have friends who are Jewish. Are like, oh, all of a sudden I'm the scum of the earth. You know what I mean? It all gets lumped in. And this has been a problem for 2,000 years where Christians do not love their Jewish neighbors like they should. They do not witness to them as they should. In fact, they turn against people and be like, you're the ones that killed Jesus. Well, actually, friend, Paul says all of us killed Jesus. It was the Romans, Gentile, and the Jewish leaders, Jewish, all of humanity, him on the cross, me included, brother.
On the
that
sense.
Like, to turn around and blame a group rather than look again inward, you can see how Satan's very thrilled to say, oh, let's divide. They're the enemy, them, not me.
Let's do this. Let's keep going.
Right. And that was that was our fall study last year, was Your Story Has a Villain, talking about Ephesians 5, saying like, we do not battle against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, ideologies. You know what I mean? Like, we battle, our enemy's not people. It's him. It's Satan behind the scenes. So
it is. And I think, you know the name of it, the book that Rabbi Tuvia,
so we had a rabbi come to our church on our Seder meal and basically walk us through what the Last Supper would have looked like for Jesus. And he did a fair amount of it in Hebrew, like for the blessing and the prayer, which is really cool that it was the same meal that Jesus did as his Last Supper, was the same one that was practiced right before the Israelites left Egypt in slavery. It's been practiced for thousands of years now. Is awesome. But he's part of an organization called Jews for Jesus, where he's Jewish, born Jewish, but he believes that Jesus, Yeshua, is the Messiah.
Yeah.
And so he spends a lot of time in Israel telling people like, hey, you've read the scriptures. Have you read the Gospels, like the New Testament? You've read your Old Testament scriptures, but have you really read this? And he's like, the amount of people who are coming to faith in Israel, the amount of Jews now who are coming to faith in Jesus because they're able to really read it for themselves. He's like, he described it as the fish are coming and the nets are breaking.
Yeah.
Like, again, Jesus' heart, he does not hate them. He loves everyone. He's trying to rescue all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Christians got to stop making it difficult for people to come into faith.
Yeah, they do. And I think sometimes we blame so many other factors on why people aren't coming. And then we could turn around and be like, oh, I guess we are pushing people away when we do this or that or this or that.
Yes, the same thing I've said before, where it's kind of like if the alcoholic comes into church, everyone's like, oh, and accepts faith. People are like, that's amazing. What a testimony.
Yeah.
The greedy person comes in and they admit, hey, success was driving me.
Yeah.
But what if a Hindu comes in? What if, you know what I mean? Like, we need to treat them the same way. It's just that we haven't normalized being around people and saying Jesus is even for them.
Yeah, 100%. Jesus is for
we tend to see it more in the
person.
Suburban black and white, like, oh, Jesus saves alcoholics and greedy people and people from pornography. And you know what I mean? Like, but other religions... Well, you know what I mean? It's
a different thing, but let's pivot a little bit to a fun one.
Okay.
Philadelphia,
city of brotherly love.
Yes.
So, Philadelphia is a fantastic little church, it sounds like. It is the 6th letter that's written, and Jesus says, basically, you guys are amazing. This is where he again references the synagogue of Satan. And as we said, the flow was Jesus introduces himself, strengths, weaknesses, promises. There's no weaknesses in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
They're a small church, but they're strong. And so their promise is, I will make you into a pillar in the new kingdom, into the new heaven, which... I don't know. In other places, I joked on Sunday, I'm like, he gives a crown. You could sit down on a throne, and you're
the tree of life.
Right, tree of life. And you're like, oh, pillar. Cool. Thanks. The pillar symbolizes not only like that because you were strong, I'll etch you into a pillar the same way that, like, as if it was a major contributor to a building project, you might etch their name on... This is the Chase McKenzie wing of the hospital because Chase McKenzie gave $2 million to this hospital. Like, so this is the McKenzie wing. That's what is happening with the temple. He's like, you might be small, but you're so strong that I'm going to etch your name onto a pillar. But Philadelphia was also repeatedly damaged by earthquakes. So you can imagine what gets destroyed in earthquakes are big buildings with columns and pillars, and that gets fallen down. So
they didn't have earthquake prevention yet.
Correct. Yeah. So in a city that had experienced so much instability, the pillar, it symbolizes permanent stability and security. And Jesus is like, because you are built on me, no earthquake, literal or spiritual or persecution from Rome will shake you. And you will stand the test of time into the new heaven and earth, where it's like, oh, this is the Church of Philadelphia. They endured. They were strong. And I just think that's really, I don't know, very cool that it's like, if you experience natural disaster, Jesus is like, I see it. I'm with you. And I'm going to strengthen you in it. Again, just the promise of Jesus. Yeah,
it's amazing. And before we get to our closing questions, and today we'll be having...
you have a new segment for us.
We have a new segment, which I'll get to. But is there anything else that you are looking at that you really wanted to dive in, but we couldn't?
Yeah. I hit the Laodicea one pretty good in the sermon about hot and cold, but there was actual hot springs and cold water that came from surrounding cities that met in Laodicea.
Yeah.
So it was like a hot springs that was about 6 miles away, and that water would come in, but it would intersect with the cold water. So what came into the city was lukewarm. So again, where bacteria would grow, not always the best. And that was part of, again, Jesus' critique, like, I know you, I see you, and you're actually a lot like that water where you're lukewarm, so I spit you out. Probably the last thing is there's this idea that talks about Gnosticism. Gnosticism, as I said, probably outside of the church.
Yeah.
The biggest fight was Caesar's Lord, Jesus is Lord.
Yeah.
Inside the church, one of the largest fights was making sure the Jews and Gentiles recognize they're on the same team, as long as they're on Team Jesus.
Yeah.
But Gnosticism was the first like church heresy that popped up. So they're just starting to emerge. And what it is they're taking Greek thought and applying it to scripture, that the physical is bad and everything that's like mental and knowledge is good. And you're like, we still do that today. Yes, we do. Where people don't take care of their body. Oh, it's going to go away anyways. No, Jesus is very pro-physical. It's like your body and you will have a resurrected body. Jesus had a resurrected physical body. Like the world that is to come, that we'll get to, is a physical, tangible world. It's not floating around in clouds.
No.
That's more Greek thought than it is Christian thought.
Yeah.
So Gnosticism, you can see, is starting to come where they're saying like, you need to have secret knowledge. It's not like hidden knowledge is what it stands for. So Jesus is saying like affirming the physical world. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. That includes your body, your physical body. But also like love him with your mind. Don't elevate one or the other. God made all of creation. He made all the physical. He's redeeming all the physical. So that's just the beginning signs of the first church heresy that really takes off in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th century.
Perfect.
And we still have it today.
Oh, very much. But I think in your notes you wrote that it pushes back against these ideas. And it does. But okay, with that, we are going to do a new segment. I'm going to show Pastor Sam a video, and it'll be on there, and if you're listening to audio, you can hear it. That Pastor Sam has not seen.
I don't know what this is.
He has no idea. So we're going to play it, and then afterwards, we're going to get... I just want to hear your exact opinion on this.
Okay.
That's all I want to hear.
I'm kind of nervous, but I'm excited.
So let's cut to the video now.
Okay. Oh boy.
Y'all all mark this down. Cody Zorn starts leaving the King James Bible and subverting Bible Missionary Baptist Church to do so. Vote me out. God help us. If my pastor down yonder in Shelby's still alive, call the old man of God. Get the bald pot-bellied man of God down here from Shelby and have him run my tail off. Amen. Get Preacher Goodman down here and have him run me off. Absolutely. God forbid. Anyways, I like stories with happy endings. They chunked her out. Verse 34, when he was come in, he did eat and drink, and said, go see now the cursed woman, bury her, for she's a king's daughter. Verse 35, and they went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull and the feet and the palms of her hands. Wherefore they came again and told him, and he said, this is the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, in the portion of Jezreel shall the dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the carcass of Jezebel shall be as dung upon the face of the field in the portion of Jezreel, so that they shall not say, this is Jezebel. I want you to notice something about...
Pastor Sam, what is your reaction to this? Let's first get into it. The King James.
I have to like really kind of think, man, that guy tired me out in like 30 seconds. Is that there's kind of that line of like, what's the best Bible translation? The one you'll read.
Yep.
I'd say within reason. There's some Bible translations I do not recommend because they've definitely altered some of the words. King James isn't even considered that good of a translation, if I'm honest. Like from
not anymore. Yeah.
So, someone needs to tell him that King James. Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna leave it alone. Oh man. So I don't even know how to describe what that was. It really seems like majoring in the minors and minoring in the majors, and then it's a way to kind of get people fired up, and then you turn around and start railing on Jezebel, and you can get a sense that this dude's about half a second away from saying, and anyone else like her. I think the train has left the tracks, and we're about to. Yeah, we know where it's going. We know.
So that is going to be one of our new segments where I'm going to bring Pastor Sam a video to show him. Did
he really say fire me if I start preaching from anything other than the King James?
Very much so. And he goes on later to say someone is using the new King James, which I'm using today.
Which we like.
And that they should be thrown out. And no one should send their kids to their youth program. So that was all in the same sermon. So,
okay,
but that will be our new
man's got
segment,
I guess.
Sometimes it will go with what we're talking about. Other times it's just going to be random. But I promise you, Pastor Sam will not see these.
We went so unprepared.
Yeah, we went through the whole weekend and week, and I was just finding certain videos, and I did not show him. But he heard me laugh.
I heard you chuckle.
Yeah. So, but back to the serious part before we end here. If you are looking at America, let's play this game.
Yeah.
You're looking at America.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's good parts, there's bad parts, there's this, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to wrap it up into one big church of America, which church would you call out? That we represent of the seven.
The one that comes to mind is Laodicea.
Yep.
Because they say, I'm rich. We're the richest country in the world. We're the richest church in the world. But we don't realize how far, that we have actually fallen, and we're neither hot and we're cold. I think we're coming out of that, though.
Yeah.
I would say. I think there's been an awakening, not a revival, but an awakening that more and more people are starting to say, we want Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
End of story. I think that was maybe of the last few decades, but we're starting to come out of that. But I think that's where America was. But I would say, honestly, maybe more like Ephesus, where it talks about we're starting to endure some hardship, but we need to return to our first love. Yeah. And I think that's the transition that's happening, is you see more and more, especially with younger generations, people saying, Jesus is what I want. Yes, if my church has the bells and whistles, that's cool. But if it doesn't have Jesus, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I do get a sense that as the world's gotten crazier and things have become more unstable, that Laodicea is just not going to work anymore. That I'm rich and I'm good, I'm taken care of, I have bells and whistles, that kind of mindset. I don't think that's going to work anymore. I think what you're seeing is people want something real. Yeah. They want something that is healing and that is going to remind them of truth. And I think that looks like return to first love. Yeah. And I think in many ways we're moving towards an Ephesus, and hopefully at some point a Philadelphia. We're strong, though we've endured, and faithful.
Yeah. And so let's play this last game.
Oh,
we talked about, how other churches will read this and they'll be like, the church down the street, church down this. Let's play with ours.
Sure.
Our church.
Yeah.
The Point Church here in Centerville, Ohio. Let's play this first one. Which one do you think that we would represent? Then the second, if Jesus was writing a letter to us, he's writing it right to us.
Yep.
What do you think he would commend and challenge at the same time?
Yeah.
We're not going to get into promises because the promises of Jesus are his promises, not us to make up. So,
I would say, again, our church is in a serious transition over the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I would say where we were was a church of Sardis. There was just a lot of things that happened.
Yeah.
no one's really at fault, but like the church was, as I've told the story, dead. All intents and purposes. Like it had a good reputation, but it was dead.
Yeah.
It was COVID, leadership transition. There was just a lot that was happening, and it was difficult, but people were still here. Not the people were dead. The ministries had just kind of collapsed.
Yeah.
But there was still a remnant who was like, I think there can be something new.
Yeah.
So I would say probably Sardis would be the area where we were, just from that phrase. And I think what we're really, again, aiming for is that Philadelphia. Like not huge, not billion or millions of dollars of budget, but faithful and strong, like having endured. Like in many ways, we were shaken.
Yeah.
And I think that was the wake-up call.
Yeah.
Because the question that we asked ourselves when we decided not to close our church doors was, would anyone miss us if we put a for sale sign in our yard? Would anyone care if we closed our doors?
Would anyone notice?
Yeah. Unless you went to this church, no one would notice.
No.
And that was like across the board. Like the city wouldn't care.
Yeah.
The neighborhoods wouldn't care. So that's where I say I think we were a Sardis. Now they would. It would be missed. But we're still not big by many standards.
Yeah.
But I think what we see is just, it seems like every season of our church is more faithful, more people saying, okay, it's not flashy, but it's faithful as best as we can. And I think we're growing in that. So
I think so.
I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, no.
But I think that's our goal, and that's clear. And so we know what we're aiming for.
Yeah. Amen to that. So with that, we're going to close out today's episode. It should be out every Thursday is what we have decided. So on Thursday in the morning, I don't know what time you get up, but it should be posted around 4:30 to 5 a.m. And then the sermons will be coming out on Monday. So we thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be excited to see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to the Point Church podcast. We hope this message helps you take your next step in following Jesus. Grace, peace. We will see you next week.